One of the biggest mistakes that I always see people make when they host like a webinar or a 5-day challenge, 3-day challenge or whatnot is that they overteach. So they think of the event as, hey, I'm just going to try to give as much value as I can, teach them as much as I know. But the problem with that is a lot of times when people leave the event, they end up feeling overwhelmed. Or by the time the offer comes up, they're like, oh, well, I just learned everything I pretty much had to know. Why don't I just go try it myself and then I'll come back in a few months? And guess what? They never come back.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the podcast that inspires action and helps you to grow your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. For the first time ever on the show, I'm welcoming back a returning guest, Canadian Chartered Professional Accountant Melissa Ng, who first joined us in episode 3 when her Side Hustle Launchers Academy was hitting 6 figures a year. Today, Melissa shares how she grew that business to over $1 million in sales and how a major pivot from a failing sales strategy led her to breakthrough success that involved hosting virtual events. Now, what started as a side hustle has become her full-time gig. Have you ever thought about hosting a virtual event like a webinar, a masterclass, or a 3 to 5 day challenge? Melissa clearly breaks down the numbers you need to know. Depending on your goal for the event, how many people you'll need to invite, how many of those you can expect to actually show up, and how many are then likely to buy. It's a clear, actionable roadmap for anyone thinking about leveraging virtual events to grow their business. Melissa also shares that her company uses mostly social media to generate leads, and how she leans heavily on AI, especially ChatGPT, to streamline her social media planning. The catch? You need to give it the right prompts. So naturally, I asked her to share her best prompt for social media success with us. And while she covers some key specifics in our conversation, she later emailed me her detailed go-to prompt, and I've included it in the show notes for this episode so that you can easily copy and paste. I tested the prompt myself for Side Hustle Hero and was blown away by the results. It generated detailed, actionable insights that were incredibly useful. If you're curious about how to use AI to plan your social media strategy, stick around for the wrap-up at the end of the episode where I'll share my experience. But before all that, if our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider giving the show a caffeinated thumbs up by shooting me over a virtual coffee. It really is a thing over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you so much. Now here's my conversation with the award-winning e-commerce maven and returning Side Hustle Hero guest, Melissa Ng. Well, welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, Joan, for having me.
Well, in the 2.5 years of the Side Hustle Hero podcast, this is the first time that I've invited a past guest to come back on the show. You were featured in episode number 3 called Reality Check, The Truth Behind E-Commerce Success. Do you remember that?
I do. That was actually one of the first podcast interviews that I did. And so it made a very strong impression.
Great.
For
Well,
sure.
it made a strong impression on our listeners as well, because it's a really valuable episode, because in it you pull back the curtain on the reality of the e-commerce space. And a fun fact, besides hosting and producing this podcast, one of my favorite things is to be the host and moderator of business panels. And recently I was doing one where we honed in solely on AI and its applications to serve and support us in business. And you popped into my LinkedIn feed. And I think it's because around the same time you were doing a speaking engagement on the topic of AI, and we reconnected. So you're involved quite a bit in that space now.
Yes, I am. And one thing that really helped me in my business is actually using AI for the business that I have. And that in itself, like AI is such a powerful tool. And I kind of wish more business owners and side hustlers knew about it, because if they did, then they'd be able to do so much more with the limited amount of time and resources that they have.
Oh, couldn't agree more. Well, you're a certified professional accountant. And 2.5 years ago, when we sat down, your full-time job was in mergers and acquisitions for a multinational company, and your side hustle was helping entrepreneurs through a company you co-founded, Launchers Academy.
Mhm.
Tell us about an impressive milestone, and I'm thinking one in particular, but I'll let you decide. An impressive milestone that you hit in that business, and then how you pivoted to what you're focusing on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so going back a few years ago, I was starting an e-commerce coaching business as a side hustle to supplement the income and also as a more of a passion
Yeah.
business to in addition to what I was doing for finance, which is completely different. And it was really, really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. With AI as the tool that we leverage, we were able to hit $1 million in 24 months with this business.
Mm. What was the one of the key tools that you found the most effective that you were using with AI?
ChatGPT.
Yeah. How do you use it?
Oh my goodness. We use ChatGPT for so many different things, but one
Yeah.
of the main things that we really use it for is for social media planning. So I do a lot of content. Our business, that's how we get leads. That's how we get new people being aware of what we do as well as our business. And ChatGPT is really, really good if you know how to use the right prompts.
Mm.
If you know how to use the right prompts, you get really valuable information that basically almost replaces a social media manager.
Okay, I got to ask you about the prompt that you're using for social media then. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's very, very detailed. So
Okay.
essentially, one of the biggest tips that I always share when using ChatGPT is to give ChatGPT a role to play into. So when I'm using it for social media, I would let ChatGPT know, like, hey, you are a social media planner. The goal is for us to create a content plan where I am helping XYZ owners, helping start up their own e-commerce store on Shopify. And I want to be posting 5 days a week. So come up with a posting schedule, come up with different content ideas based on these three pillars that I want it to be focused on. For me, it's educational, it's storytelling, and it's inspirational. And then
Oh,
from there, it prompts up some really good information. The prompt is more detailed, so I can definitely send it over to you and you can share it to your viewers a little bit later on if you would like.
okay.
But essentially, it's an entire paragraph and it comes up with everything that you need for from your content planning to social media ideas, puts it into a table for you to see. And that's where you can start as your brainstorming process.
Wow. That sounds great. I've used it a little bit for that, but not to the degree that you just described.
Mm.
And I think like a real valuable piece in there based on the moderating that I've done in this field is that giving it that description of its role plus who you want to reach out to. Launchers Academy was your baby back then, but you've shifted now to a slightly different focus. How did that happen and what is it about?
Yeah, absolutely. So from Launchers Academy, after we hit our milestone of $1 million in sales for the coaching business, I shared that on social media, and a lot of other business owners who also have coaching businesses or agencies or were consultants actually started reaching out to me to be like, hey, that's really cool that you did this and you got this award for doing so. Like, can you share more of how you did that? And so I had a lot of coffee chats and a lot of one-on-one chats with these business owners to really understand, like, hey, what were things that they've tried to do? A lot of things were actually what we had tried to do in the beginning. So when I was trying to scale our e-commerce coaching business, we hired a team of salespeople, like a team of closers and setters,
Okay.
try to cold outreach people on social media to get them to book in a call with the sales team, and then for us to showcase the value that we provide for them.
So a lot of one-on-one work.
A lot of one-on-one, cold emailing, we did cold calling, we posted a lot of content. But what we found was we put in a lot of effort to do these things. But number one, the challenge was it takes a very long time for us to get really good at this. So in the beginning 6 months, we got no results, barely any leads come in, and barely any closes. And then the other issue with it was we were putting in so much energy and we weren't able to see the returns.
Mm,
That was a big
yes.
thing. But
Yes.
later on, I learned about how to sell one to many and using virtual events. So when I say virtual events, like a 3-day live summit, 3 to 5 day challenge online that people can come in. You're building trust, you're building connection, building relationship, and you're collapsing the time that it takes to help people move from just knowing who you are to then buying into, wow, your process, your system is something that I can see being used in my own business.
How did you skip to discovering that after all the time and money that you're investing into the one-on-one?
We were just trying to find systems that would work,
Okay.
honestly. Like we
Yeah.
spent so long just, hey, this is something where, okay, let's find something else. And then eventually, once we found this, we were like, okay, this is helping us do $30,000 to $50,000 a month consistently. And once we found that, we like honed in on it. And over the next 8, 10 months, we did events every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And that's actually how we reached our $1 million in
Okay.
sales for that.
I'm
And so
really glad you mentioned too, but at first, those first 6 months, the revenue for all intents and purposes was zero, so that people don't get discouraged in that first month, second month, third month, thinking, oh man, this was a dumb idea. But instead, you were focusing, okay, this isn't working so well. What else can we do? Until you finally hit on something that
yeah.
that really did. That's, I think, really key.
Exactly. So the new business, Amprofy, now does exactly that. So we use the system that we use to scale our coaching business to $1 million. And then we're helping other coaches, consultants, and agencies use this system to scale their business up to 6 figures, 7 figures, and beyond.
Awesome. Well, tell us more about the virtual events. What do they look like and how does that come about?
Yeah. So what we found is that in order for someone to actually buy from you, you need to build a relationship with them. And building trust is a key thing. So they need to first know you, then they need to like you, and then they need to trust you. But trust, that is the hardest thing to build. So how do you build trust? Well, if you were to use a virtual live event where you spend 3 to 5 days with them, an hour a day, it doesn't have to be for the full day, you can just get an hour a day over 3 days, an hour a day over 5 days, sharing your expertise and your value on a particular topic that you solve as a business or you solve as a business owner. You help them solve that problem. And at the end of it, they get to experience you. It's almost like Costco. So you're doing like a taste and try on a Saturday morning. You go to Costco, it's a whole bunch of samples. You're sampling their different products that they have. If you like it, you buy it. Journey continues. You don't like
Right.
it, they still get to know you and they join your community. And you start building a community of like raving fans.
Back when I was on the road a lot doing seminars, I used to host these free evening events. And in the space of 3 hours, the attendees would get a ton of great, actionable ideas and knowledge that they could execute. And that was all well and good. But the benefit, and you just mentioned this too, you gain that connection with the person and build that trust. And by the end of the evening, then I would invite them into the fully paid weekend event. And I loved that setup because you knew that the people that had signed up and paid for it, we were going to have a rockin' time together because we've already made that connection. They know what to expect. And so they were highly successful because of that time that we had spent together. And the ones where we just, didn't connect or it wasn't time for them, then that's fine. They could sign up in a future one, which often happened as well. So if I were to come to you as a coach or consultant, what are the first things that you'd walk me through or that I would need to gain clarity on to host a successful event?
Ooh, I love that question. I would say if we were to work together, one of the first things that I do is I do a deep dive sit down with a new client to really understand their business,
Okay.
who exactly is their target audience. If they have these type of people already in their target audience, if they do, that's amazing because now what we're going to do is we're going to essentially nurture your audience with a virtual live event. And then from there, we decide on what is the biggest problem that your target audience has. Once we figure out your biggest problem that the target audience has, that is the topic that we're actually going to host the event on. Because once you do that, now everyone that's coming to your event, you can call it a workshop, a boot camp, a seminar, a webinar, whatever name you want.
Yeah.
But everyone coming to this virtual event is going to be your exact target audience because you're solving that problem that they have.
Right. And what if that client isn't exactly clear on what that problem is that their clients or potential clients are having?
Then that's where we do some client discovery,
Okay.
or is what I like to call it. We do, some outreach to the audience one-on-one to figure out what
Mm.
is the challenges or problems that they are facing. From there, try to find the common theme around that. And then that's how we host the workshop. And
It,
one more thing that I will mention though is a lot of it is testing as well. So when you test on a
mm,
topic, if you notice that people coming in are not exactly your ideal audience, that is good data to
hmm
have. And then from
Yes.
there, reiterations.
I love that. You got your successes and you got your learning experiences. Okay, we attracted a bunch of people, but they're not quite a fit. We need to change up our message somehow.
Hmm.
If a person's say following is mostly on one or more of the social platforms, how do they get that information from people? What have you found to be the most effective? Because oftentimes just I don't know, posting and making an Instagram post saying, "Hey, what's your problem?" You don't get a whole lot of responses.
Yeah, the best way is to do one-on-one outreach.
Okay.
So if there are, let's say, 5 to 10 people that you know fit your exact ideal client avatar, you
Mm.
can reach out to them and be like, hey, you know what? I'm actually planning to host a 3 to 5 day event. And I know, suited very much towards you as well as other people who have this challenge or are doing in this business.
Yes.
And so if you are available, I would love to jump on a 15-minute chat with you to learn a little bit more about your problems. And at the same time, I want to add more value to you by helping you solve a problem that you might have on this call. And
Right.
so there's an exchange of value directly on this 15-minute, 20-minute chat.
Awesome. And how do you set the target of how many attendees ideally that you'd like to have at the event?
So we work backwards to
Okay.
figure out.
Yep.
It depends on the revenue that you want to achieve for this event.
Okay.
And then from there, what is the offer price that you have? Divide that to get the total number of people that need to show up. And generally, because online events are a little bit different than in-person events, I would say on average, if it's a free event, around 20 to 30% of people who sign up show up.
Okay. That was going to be one of my questions to you for sure. Okay.
Yeah. If it's a paid event, it's going to be a lot higher because they have to pay to join in. But generally, for free events, if it's more so of a cold audience that you're doing it for, 20 to 30%. If it's a warmer audience, closer to that 30%.
So what are you targeting for the number of people ideally you'd like in that virtual room for a 3 to 5 day challenge?
Yeah, so again, it depends on what the offer price is, and it depends on what the revenue target goal is. But generally, every 5 people
Okay.
that join the event will convert to a buyer.
Okay. At that time, at the end of the
Yeah,
5 days or 3 days.
at the end of the five days or 3 days. If you structure the event in the way that we structure it, which is more of an experience rather than just like a learning teaching session.
How do you mean by that? Experience.
One of the biggest mistakes that I always see people make when they host like a webinar or a 5 day challenge, 3 day challenge, or whatnot is that they overteach. So they think of the event as, hey, I'm just going to try to give as much value as I can, teach them as much as I know. But the problem with that is a lot of times when people leave the event, they end up feeling overwhelmed. Or by the time the offer comes up, they're like, oh, well, I just learned everything I pretty much had to know. Why don't I just go try it myself and then I'll come back in a few months? And
Mm,
guess what? They never come back.
right.
So
Right.
that is one of the biggest mistakes I do see people making. Instead, whenever you run virtual events, you should think of it more as a transformational event where you're helping them break limiting beliefs. So for example, if we were to use your side hustle hero as an example, the event would be a little bit more centered around people knowing that they need to start a side hustle or they want to,
Yes,
but there's a lot of limiting beliefs that probably stop them from actually starting a side hustle.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you want to address at the event. because someone can buy into you and buy into your product, but if they don't believe in themselves that they can actually start a side hustle, they won't buy.
Right.
And they won't actually go through the process of starting that side hustle. 3 years later, they'll be like, yeah, I wanted to start a side hustle 3 years ago. I still want to start one right now, but I still don't know what to do.
Right.
And all they need to do is just start.
So, in structuring then what you're going to cover during that 1 hour a day for 3 to 5 days, you're trying to find that sweet spot of a blend between the content of what you need to do, for example, to start your side hustle or grow it, with the piece that is the mindset piece.
Yes. Yeah.
So, to give people the courage and understanding that they actually can achieve this.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in my entrepreneurship journey is been 4 years now for me. It's entrepreneurship is 80% mindset,
Mm-hmm.
20% actual strategies, skill set, all of that you learn and develop. But if you don't have the mindset and the confidence in yourself and the ability that you can do this, I can give you the full blueprint of going to zero to $100,000, zero to $1 million. Even if I give you every single step of how to do that, you won't be able to do that.
Yes.
Mindset's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with you. But some people listening to that will go, what? All I need to do is follow this step by step. Yeah. But you've got this whole belief system about what you can and can't do and what you're capable of, and that will prevent you from executing. And oftentimes it looks like these external factors, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's going on in our head.
Exactly.
Mm. Is there a particular platform or software that you favor for doing these?
Oh, I run my whole business on this philosophy, and it's keeping things as simple as it can be. So anytime there's a new software or anything, I think about, hey, what is the easiest thing that people are already used to? Zoom is what we use for our webinars and for our challenges. So that is what people are the most used to anyways, and it's
Yeah.
free. So we use that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're keeping under that hour, is it for the free account?
Oh, true.
Something like that.
Actually, no, we use a paid version. It's
Okay.
free for attendees to use and come in.
I see what you mean. Yeah, because I've paid for my Zoom subscription recently.
Yeah. But people are used to it. And yeah, just try to keep that as simple as we can.
Is there a lesser known feature in that Zoom platform that you find effective for these events?
Sometimes we use the webinar feature of Zoom.
Okay.
So we run different types of events. Some of them it's more workshop style, so we have more interaction from the audience. There's a little bit more back and forth conversation. Other times we do it masterclass style, where we're just kind of presenting to the audience information. And when we do that, we usually use webinar just so there's a little bit less disturbance and it's easier for us to kind of have the audience focus. We do that. So webinar is really good on Zoom, we find, for masterclass presentation styles.
Okay. So if you're doing the webinar version, though, are you finding that you're still getting the same bottom line results after it? Because I find some of the webinars, I guess it depends a lot on who's doing it, but I'm thinking that there's quite a bit of a drop off rate by the time it gets towards the end of the event.
That is very much dependent on how you structure the entire event. So
Okay.
the experience of it. So that's one thing that we actually help our clients with. We help them structure how the event flows, because that's very important for retention. And then what they're essentially talking about during the 3 to 5 day event. If you focus on structuring the event in a way that engages them throughout, that's the biggest thing for retention.
Like in terms of activities or like
in terms of what you're talking about, that's important.
Okay.
And how the event flows. I don't know if you've been to a Tony Robbins event.
Online.
Online? Yeah. So one of the things that Tony does, and if you kind of step back and think about how he structures his event, it's almost like a roller coaster that you're going on.
Yes.
His event, I went to a Date with Destiny last December, and I think it was a 5 full-day event. So every day was from 8 a.m. all the way till 11 p.m. The whole time, I felt like I was, even though it was online, it was like a roller coaster of exciting things that are ups and downs and all of these things happening. And yeah, that is an experience.
But a Tony Robbins event is very different than your run-of-the-mill webinar. Like
No,
they're,
that's true.
yeah.
That is true. But similarly, though, the way that you structure it in
Hmm.
terms of like the storytelling that happens throughout the event, the value that's being provided, what you're going to be talking about, all of that is important in terms of making sure that people are staying to the end and that you're keeping the event engaging and fun for the attendees.
Right. And that would be really a key, is coming up with that template.
And the energy too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
To remind yourself of that, certainly as the presenter as well, is so key. Well, when you're doing these with clients, are you in the background running these?
So we have a couple of different offers. For
Okay.
one of the offers where we're building everything for them, so it's our done for you offer, we do co-host the event with them as an option that we
Oh,
provide
okay.
to them. And we're there, making sure the attendees are engaged, they're having fun, and that they're enjoying the event. So we do that.
Right. And monitoring the chat and
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So they
yeah.
can just focus on presenting, and then we're doing the rest of the background.
If somebody does want to do it on their own, would you recommend that they have at least one other person working with them to do things like monitoring the chat or being able to look after any tech issues or?
I would say it's not necessary. So if
Okay.
you're a solopreneur or just a one-person team, it's totally doable for you to run a virtual event yourself. If you do have someone that can help with monitoring the chat, looking at Q&A, that will be helpful for sure because it takes away something that you need to do so that you can just focus on presenting. But is it like 100% necessary? No, I would say not.
Right. Okay. And you were saying that you work backwards. So if you want 10 people to sign up at the end, you need 50 people attending. Now, if only, what did we say, only 20 to 30% of them are actually going to show up that sign up,
Yeah, I would say closer to
yeah,
30 actually is the number.
then we have to start with,
I think around 160. 160 to sign up to the event. Like
okay,
if you're running ads, for example, where the audience is colder, then you need a little bit more sign up because a lot of people just sign up. But they're like, okay, I want to go to this. And they completely forget about it and they don't know who you are. So they don't necessarily join. But if
right,
you do have a warmer audience, that number can actually increase to around like 50, 60%. So it really depends on the audience. But let's
right,
just be conservative. Let's just say
sure,
30% people actually show up. So 160 people and 30% show up. So that's around 50 you get in the actual room. And then at the end of it, it converts 20% of people showing up would become a buyer generally for a high ticket purchase. If it's a lower ticket purchase, so anything under 3,000, it's actually a lot higher. But let's just say we're selling a high ticket offer over 3,000, then you get 10 people converting. So that's it's at 3,000, that's a $30,000 event
oh, okay,
approximately.
yeah.
Or if you're selling a $10,000 offer, that's a $100,000 event right there.
Yeah. And of course, the entrepreneur is going to have to keep running these because each time they do, they're going to be more effective at it. Chances are their closing ratio is going to go up.
Yes. So this is the stats I provided. This is more so the starting stat. So all of these metrics I just gave, 30%, 20%, that increases over time as well as you get, number one, gather more data
Yes.
and you collect more feedback of how your event goes so that every single time you do it, it's only going to get better and better.
Right. Yeah. Because you're getting more skilled at it. Plus, you're getting word out there too that somebody found it really helpful. Hey, you
Yeah.
got to check this out. They're having it next time. And so these are actual live events. They're not recorded as the ones that you focus on.
We do both.
Okay.
So the journey that we generally take our clients on is that when they first start with us, they'll always do a live event because that's how we collect data and gather feedback. And then later on, after they run maybe two or three, and we know that it's fully optimized, then we help them
Uh,
turn it into an evergreen process. So now you have
nice.
systems in place that are there to make your life easier and your business easier. It's more automated. You get leads and clients coming in.
Sure. So they're doing the live events, and even if you like two or three people show up, it really doesn't matter because you're going through the process. You're refining your message. You're refining your delivery, And then as you keep doing those, you get to the point where it's like, okay, this is really polished. And then at that point is when you do the, like you said, the evergreen one, the one that
That's
just
correct.
runs automatically. How does the automation work? Are you setting it up so that it will automatically come out like 24 hours after a person has signed up for it? Or are they
Okay.
truly set times and dates? How does that work?
So there's a lot of ways to do it, but the way that we do it ourselves is we set it so it's actually a start and end date. So anyone coming
Okay.
in, they like it starts on the Monday and ends on a Friday if it's a 5-day event, and it starts at a certain time.
Regardless of when a person actually signs up.
Yeah, so we have
Okay,
wait lists as
nice.
well. We're like, hey,
Yep.
thanks for joining our wait list for this. When we launch this event, you'll be one of the first to know that
Okay.
this is going to happen here and on this date. I've seen in the market where other people are like, hey, you sign up and then it starts 5 hours later, it starts 24-hour later. I find that those work, yes, but we prefer having like an actual set time and date.
Right. To me, that is more credible too.
Mm-hmm.
What have you found is the biggest surprise that someone has when they're starting to do this, where perhaps when they do their first or first several live events?
Ooh, I like that one. I think the biggest surprise that they have is so we did the math game right now where we were saying, hey, if you want to hit $100,000, if you have a $10,000 offer, you need 160 people signed up.
Okay.
I think a lot of people focus on that number. They're like, whoa, 160 people signing up is a lot of people, especially if you don't have that big of an audience.
Yes.
And what I like to say instead is actually, instead of focusing on the $100,000 as a revenue, right? Get the people in first as the number one goal. And you're running your event for the first time. So even if you have like 5 people in the room, that's actually very, very valuable because now you can validate your event, validate your offer and all that. Get 5 people in the room, you get one person to sign up at 10,000. That's already a $10,000 event.
Hmm.
Is it as good as $100,000? Maybe not, but 10,000. So, and you just have 5 people in the room.
Right.
5 people is very doable. Getting 20 people in the room is generally quite doable.
Okay.
So I think one of the biggest things is like people are like, oh my God, I need to hit $100,000 event. I want to hit that 6-figure number so that they can then start talking about it or whatever it is. But instead of focusing so much on that, I would say as you're starting, just
Yes.
throw the event, put it out there, validate it. And once you know that this is actually what people are interested in, then you can make reiterations. And that's how you can get more and more people coming in. You have
Sure.
to improve and all of that. So initially in the beginning, don't focus so much on like the number that you need to hit necessarily. Just run the event, throw it out there, and then do reiterations.
Where are you finding people are getting most success in basically recruiting people to your event?
So we focus on social media. That's kind of our general way of acquiring leads and clients ourselves.
Okay.
So Instagram, ads, sometimes we run paid ads, depending. Joint ventures are really good. So partnering with someone that already has your audience is
Yes.
very, very powerful, especially if you're just starting your business, you might not have the list or the audience of people in your own realm just yet. But
Right.
if you partner up with someone, you're able to reach out to that person's list, which is super powerful.
That's what I did when I started doing those previews that I was telling you about for the evenings. It
Oh,
was
okay.
the seminar was called Wealth and Women. And so I did this weekend, or excuse me, the sort of an evening event and partnered with financial planning firms. It
Oh,
was just a really nice marriage, and it was a win-win that they could offer
yes.
to their clients. And like you said, there are people who are already interested in becoming more financially free. So thanks for that tip. I'd forgotten about that.
Awesome.
Well, in growing or running any business, be it a side hustle or full time, at times we face those difficult events, those strategies that didn't work out, external negative factors we couldn't anticipate. When you're faced with those, you got to be kidding me, moments, what
Mm.
keeps you moving forward, Melissa? How do you push through?
Oh, I love all your questions, Joan. They're so powerful. For me, it's always going back down to my why. Like, why am I doing this in the first place? So I don't remember if I shared this initially in our first podcast, but one of my biggest whys is my parents. So my parents immigrated to Canada
Okay.
with basically nothing other than the clothes on their back. And growing up, me and my brother, like I've seen how hard they worked. And they are the biggest reason that I want to be able to achieve success so that I can give back to them because they've done so much for my brother and I, coming to a country speaking pretty much no English and learning from the beginning to start off from nothing. Oh my gosh, I'm getting emotional. But they are the biggest reason of why I push through because I'm like, if they can come here with nothing, I can do this business in 2024 and 2025 when I have all the information on the tips of my finger.
Yeah. It really puts it in perspective, doesn't it? It's like, oh man, when I think of what they went through, I can get through with this client or this setback or whatever it is.
And I think one of the things too that I've learned as well, and I might have heard it from Tony Robbins or another mentor, I don't remember anymore, but they also said like when your why is bigger than yourself, whether it's for someone else or for the world, community, whatever it is,
Yes.
that can drive you forward a lot.
Definitely. Just thinking of your parents or somebody in their position, the challenges that they would have faced would have been seemingly insurmountable, and it helps you put it in perspective. I remember back in my mid to late 20s, I was a competitive bodybuilder, and I had a mountain bike accident on the way to the gym one day and broke a lot of teeth, and it was kind of a mess. And I was in this feeling sorry for me mode myself. And then there was one day when I was feeling a little bit better, and I got off the couch, went to the supermarket for something, and just as I was checking out, there was a book rack and there was a paperback that just I was gravitated towards, and it was the autobiography of Rick Hansen, the wheelchair athlete.
Yeah.
And for some reason I bought it and I started reading it when I got home, and I'm reading his story and I'm like, oh, seriously, Joan, you have nothing to feel sorry for. Look at what this guy has not only gone through, but then achieved as well. And quite honestly, it got my butt off the couch and back into the gym because I had another date coming up. So that putting it into perspective, I love that. And so thanks for sharing that message of your parents. I see that you're involved with the League of Innovators.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that organization and how you got involved.
Yeah, I love that. So League of Innovators is just one of the only accelerators in Vancouver, I believe.
Okay.
In Vancouver. And they help young entrepreneurs with growing and scaling their businesses by providing a network and providing resources for them. So I applied around 8 to 10 months ago to join their Boost program, which is generally for companies that have already gained traction and they're looking to scale. And it's been really helpful so far. Like we've had some deep dive sessions where they invited some pretty renowned entrepreneurs in Vancouver to come in to talk about their businesses and share their learnings, failures, and all of that. And it's always like very inspirational to hear other people who have done awesome things come in and share like their failures and their learnings. And being able to just have a community of other entrepreneurs that are in your area, I think has been really powerful for me.
And is it one of the founders or somebody that's on the board was the founder of Hootsuite?
Yes, Brian Holmes.
Right. Okay. Which is a well-known social media management platform. And the reason I mention him and wanted you to mention the League of Innovators is as a reminder to someone listening that there are organizations and groups out there that can help you and support you that are free of cost or low cost, because that ability to surround yourself with people who have already done it and are doing it is so invaluable. And I was thinking about this today before we jumped on this call, and I was thinking about the people right now in my life who are really crushing it. They're growing their businesses. They're doing phenomenal. Every single one of them, and I'm thinking of people that are really starting to ramp up. They're in their 30s now. One of them just turned 40s. Every single one of them have serious heavyweight mentors that they can turn to who have already done what they're wanting to do. And that is just so invaluable when you've got that. So look for that in your neighborhood, in your community. Get with people who are doing what you already want to do that can
Mhm.
help guide the path for you.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of like having mentors in life, in
Yeah.
business, in whatever you want to do, like have someone that has done that or at least been a few steps ahead because it is going to help you expedite your process and your
Yep.
journey so much faster so that you don't have to make the mistakes that they probably have made.
Well, speaking of mentors, what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Melissa?
Awesome. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and also under Melissa Ng and also on Instagram. My handle is at melissa.ngg.
Awesome. So what's your best tip, your final best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle?
One of my favorite quotes, and I think this is actually the quote that helped me start business in the first place,
Okay.
was when I heard this, it completely just blew my mind. And it was this: every man has two lives, and the second one starts when they realize they just have one.
Oh.
I
Wow.
think when I heard that, when you realize that your life is limited and your time on earth is limited, and you're doing things that don't necessarily align with you or that you don't necessarily enjoy, and you have limited time, I think that really pushes you to start doing things that you want to do.
And to make every day count.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for your guidance on running virtual events and selling to many instead of just one-on-one, and for the update. Maybe we can check in again with you in a couple of years to see what you're up to. But until then, thanks for coming back and for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
Thank you so much for having me, Joan.
We each have two lives, and the second one starts when we realize we just have one. What a powerful reminder. It's a prompt for each of us to pause and ask, is this the life I really want to be living? What do I love about it? What do I need to change? Presumably, that change involves starting or scaling a side hustle. So chances are that journey can be enhanced by the effective use of AI. Remember the AI prompt Melissa talked about to act as her quasi-social media manager? Here's the full version she later shared with me by email. As mentioned, you'll also find it in the show notes at sidehustlehero.com so that you can easily copy and paste. Here's how it goes. I'm a social media planner working on building an engaged audience. Can you help me create a detailed content strategy plan? I'm looking for guidance on content pillars, post types, and a weekly posting schedule for Instagram. Now, here's where it's customized for Melissa, so you'll want to replace her target audience and service with your own. She continued, targeting B2B business owners and personal branded businesses selling a high-ticket service. Please include strategies for maximizing reach, engagement, and follower growth, as well as any content ideas that could help establish a consistent brand voice. So when I did this for Side Hustle Hero, I switched up the part about targeting B2B business owners and instead said, targeting people who want to start or scale their side hustle. That's really the only thing I changed. Other than at the very end, I added, please lay out a detailed 30-day plan for me. Yes, I often still say please and thank you to ChatGPT. But wow, did it deliver. 5 full pages of content, in fact. It described my target audience, aspiring or current side hustlers looking for practical advice, inspiration, and tools to grow. I think that sums it up nicely. But if that misses the mark with describing you, please do let me know. It also provided a content strategy plan overview. It then described no less than 7 post types to use, like carousels, infographics, and stories with suggestions on how to use each one. It provided a weekly posting schedule with ideas for each day of the week. For example, Thursday's plan included a static post with a motivational quote. It even provided the quote, every expert was once a beginner. And it suggested using a Q&A sticker in stories with text that says, ask me anything about side hustles. I could go on, but what really blew me away was the detailed 30-day content plan. It clearly laid out for each of the 30 days what I should post. For instance, day 1 suggests a carousel focused on 3 steps to find your first side hustle. Day 2, a reel about why mindset matters in side hustles. Day 3, a static post with a quote, start small, dream big. And every single day had a fresh and thoughtful idea. If your side hustle has the budget for a dedicated social media manager, that can be incredibly valuable, bringing nuanced insights and a deep understanding of your brand and target audience that AI might not fully replicate. However, considering Melissa's success in building a 7-figure business with the help of AI, it's clear that leveraging AI tools can be a highly effective, no-cost or low-cost strategy to elevate your social media presence and engagement. The hardest part is carving out the time or delegating to someone else to execute the plan. But here's the beauty of it. This prompt provides 2 things. 1, a clear and detailed roadmap that removes the guesswork about what to post. And 2, a kick in the butt to actually make it happen. And of course, if I wanted to go deeper into any of the suggestions, I could use AI to flesh out each content idea even further. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by planning content, this prompt is a game changer. I'd love to hear how it works for you. Let me know. You'll find the prompt, a link to Melissa, and the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. Until next time, remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is progress towards building the side hustle and the life that you've been dreaming of. Well, that's a wrap for today. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment. I read every one of them. Share the episode and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.